Hello, folks. This is Richard Fish. Today I'm going to be reading about my slight revision to the Fifth Amendment. Now, this one isn't as bad as a revision as I thought it'd be, but here's as it goes. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval force or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, or shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Due process of law applies to all who are within the United States of America, whether they are an illegal resident, legal resident, or natural-born citizen. Whether they're on military bases or territories, due process of law applies equally to all those who reside in the United States of America. Any individual charged with a crime while deprived of due process shall have their crime dismissed without prejudice. Now, basically, this is a refinement of the Fifth Amendment. I personally did not find anything wrong with it, but unfortunately, due because of the way the current administration is operating, there needs to be refinement about who in this Fifth Amendment is discussed. Hence why I added due process of law applies to all who are within the United States of America, whether they are illegal residents, a legal resident, or a natural-born citizen, whether they're on military bases or territories. Now, the military base and territory is a big issue right now. I know there has been instances where laws are not applied equally for U.S. citizens residing on military bases or territories. They are still part of the United States of America, military base or territory. The laws need to apply there as well. You can't just say, oh, because you're off, in another country on a military base, the laws do not apply to you. No. A military base is still considered a sovereign piece of land, a part of the United States of America. Yes, it is the rented land from another country, but the laws still apply to you if something happens on that U.S. base. Or something happens elsewhere, I believe there has been issues with voting recently, or people being, removed from the country or something because they were born. That's what it was. There was one individual who was born on, recent crime. Not a crime, mind you. He was born. That's a dumb thing to say. But it was pretty much recently found out he was born on a military base, but that didn't count. Him being born on a military base, a U.S. military base, that didn't count for citizenship. So I believe he was evicted from the country or something at that point just because of that. Just because he was born on a U.S. military base. That should not be a thing. You cannot just kick out someone. He was a citizen. He had citizenship and everything. Just because he was born in a foreign country, he was still born on a U.S. base. That's still U.S. property. He should be considered a U.S. citizen, or, in this fact, he should just be given citizenship. It's kind of ridiculous that, being born in a U.S. military base, you don't automatically get U.S. citizenship. If you're if the person who's, the woman who's giving birth to you is a U.S. citizen, let's make that very clear. The person, who's giving birth has to be, a military officer. It can't be, some random person can't just run on a military base and, give birth and say, oh, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen, my baby. Yeah, that's not how that works. I'm meaning an actual military officer, female officer, giving birth on that base, the baby should be automatically a U.S. citizen. There should be no red tape or some gray area. And that's what this Fifth Amendment is about addressing that little recourse, because it happened. It happened at some point. I don't remember. It happened recently last year, but someone citizenship getting revoked because he was born in military authorities, even though his parents, including his mother, were U.S. citizens. So this is why we need to actually add points like this. And it applies to all within the United States of America. Even illegal residents, or even people who are just visiting. The law applies to them equally. We can't just pick and choose who gets to actually get to follow the Fifth Amendment and who it applies to. So, this is what basically we need to do. And this is going to apply for a lot of my amendments with advising, is that, a legal resident, or natural-born citizen, either on a military base or territory, the law applies to them equally. It needs to be applied equally, and it needs to be set in law, because it cannot be up to interpretation that the law says, because it's talking about legal residents, not illegal residents, or people who only live in the United States of America. Military bases and territories don't count. No, military bases and towards territories need a council. Hence, why the revision. And if someone want to have discussion about that, let's have a discussion about that, because there needs to be more refinement in the law. That is a big part of what I'm doing, is that these amendments need to be refined. They are too vague, and then when you have someone like the current Supreme Court who are very wishy-washy about how they rule on things because of how they're getting paid and who's paying them, because they're not only just being paid by the public, they're being paid by billionaires, and they're paying their loved ones too. It's dirty, and it should not be up to interpretation because of who is looking at the Supreme Court, because of who's on the bench. The law should be refined and precise, and that's what I'm doing with the Fifth Amendment here, and that's going to happen to a lot of laws. So that's going to be my discussion about the Fifth Amendment. Thank you, folks. See you around.